I don't know if you're the sort of person who gets starstruck. I am not. I don't know if that's a learned behavior. I started interviewing celebrities pretty young, in my early 20s, or if I just don't have that switch where people make me nervous. And I recognize celebrities as people, and that's what we're going to talk about today, the myth of celebrity. But first, our friends at Kettle and Fire want to give you 10% off their entire inventory. Go get yourself some bone broth, sip it like tea, help you with your intermittent fasting diet, help you with your keto, or you can make it a base for your soups at home. You can also just get some soup from them. You can get some butter curry soup. It's keto friendly. You can get some spicy cauliflower keto soup. You can get some Thai curry soup, not keto friendly. Neither is their butternut squash soup, but still delicious. 2 packs for $7.99 before you save 10% with code BetterHumanhood at checkout. So go visit kettleandfire.com. It's KETTLEANDFIRE.com. Use code BetterHumanhood at checkout. 10% off your order. Let's do the show.
Welcome to Better Humanhood, where we build a better world by building better people. We have to live on the planet, and we have to live with other people. We have conversations about making that a wonderful proposition.
A little while ago, I was listening to Sean Lennon on Marc Maron's podcast. That's one of the sons of Beatle, John Lennon, and Yoko Ono, and he put a couple of things in perspective for me. We were just talking about perspective last week. How do you like them apples? Before we get into those apples, though, hope you are having a great day, great week, great life, great moment. Any string of moments that make you happy, I hope it's happening right now. One of those things that Sean Lennon put in perspective for me was the role of a dad, which is something I've been thinking about every day for the last 9 months or so. He discussed how surreal it was to watch thousands of people gather in Central Park every year on his dad's birthday for years after John Lennon, the Beatle, was killed. He said he hears all the time from people, "You have no idea what your dad meant to me." He feels kind of hijacked his dad's death from him. Wasn't just a man who moved him with his music. John Lennon was the guy who cut his meat for him at dinner and taught him how to put on pants. We will get back to that. The other thing that Sean Lennon, the son, said was that he tries not to spend too much time with famous people he admires because eventually, whatever expectation he had of them on a pedestal crumbles, and he can see their humanity. Joan Jett has been a rock star my entire life. She first recorded a version of I Love Rock and Roll in 1979. The hit version came out a couple years later, but she started playing it earlier than that. I turned 3 that year. I had the opportunity to do a brief phone interview with Joan Jett in 2002. She was open to chatting, but generally quiet, something that also came across in person a couple of times I've been able to meet her. Much different from her giant onstage persona. A decade and a half later, I don't remember a lot from that 10-minute interview. I do remember asking about politics in a post-9/11 world. She had things to say and not enough time to say them, but here's a thing that still stands out to me. I asked her what it was like to have to play the same song night after night, 300 or more performances a year. Because if you went to see Joan Jett in concert, paid your money, and she didn't play I Love Rock and Roll, you'd be upset. I imagine it would get old, especially at that time more than 20 years on. But in fact, she said it was just the opposite. Imagine everyone in the audience every night anticipating the song all night, cheering when they heard the opening bars, and then hearing everyone singing the song she made famous. No, she didn't write it, but it's been 4 decades since anybody went to see Alan Merrill, and if you've heard his version, with or without the arrows, it's probably because you went searching for where it came from. It doesn't matter how the rest of your night is going. If you had the worst day ever, and you had that waiting for you at the end of the day, standing in front of 100 or 1,000 or 20,000 people, however many people you're playing for, They're all smiling and singing your music back at you. Let me tell you, your day ends well. Because celebrities are just people, and they have bad days too. Joan Jett just happens to have a go-to bad day killer. Yeah. If you're a fan of the Evil Dead films and TV series like I am, Bruce Campbell comes across in real life basically the same way he comes across on the screen. Not quite as arrogant, maybe, but he is confident and he has no time for your bullshit. He tells crowds at speaking events that when it comes time for Q&A or a meet and greet or book signings or whatever, he will not say woodshed. I am not your monkey, is his response. If you're not familiar with what that is, one of the movies when the visual and audio are from different takes, you hear the word woodshed, but Ash's lips never move. Just like you have a sibling who's sick of hearing an embarrassing story about themselves every year at Thanksgiving for decades, it's just not funny anymore. You know I like definitions and word origins. Celebrity is an old word. It dates back to the 1300s when it was related to celebrations of religious or social rites. By the 1600s, it came to mean fame, and it was in the 1800s that it came to mean a person. Of course, it also still means fame, so a celebrity is a person with celebrity. Back to Sean Lennon's pants. Sean Lennon wears pants. When he was a little kid, someone had to teach him how to put pants on, and that someone happened to be one of the most famous songwriters the world has ever known. And that someone was killed when Sean Lennon, the little boy, was 5 years old. Apart from all the celebrations of his dad's life on the anniversary of John Lennon's murder, Sean Lennon is reminded every year on his own birthday because they were both born on October 9th, 35 years apart. In December of this year, 2019, John Lennon will have been gone for 39 years. He only lived a couple of months past his 40th birthday. Who knows what he could have done artistically over those decades. He and Yoko Ono were married for 11 years, about 10 of them after the Beatles broke up. Sean Lennon credits her for his music and film career. She's very good at the technical aspects, and she creates across a variety of art forms. So John Lennon had plenty of prospects in the realm of creative partnership with his wife. It seems they, John and Yoko, never cared much for the expectations of the crowd. In fact, looking back on the creative arc of the Beatles, the same is true for the band. This is a band that recorded I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You, and a version of Twist and Shout in 1963. And 4 years later, they were turning out Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and Strawberry Fields Forever, followed in 1968 by the likes of Happiness is a Warm Gun and Rocky Raccoon. But more than artistically, what could he have done as a human and a father? Yeah, his wealth, like that of many other people, could have done a lot of good in the world if he wanted it to, but it's his relationship with his wife and sons that really could have made the biggest impact. Kim Kardashian may be helping people get out of jail for minor drug offenses, but apart from cursing her kids with socially unusual names like Psalm, Saint, North, and Chicago, from feeding her kids, from teaching them how to use the toilet and all the things that help them get ready for life, that might not have the widest impact, but it certainly has the deepest. A reminder then that celebrities are people. I think the biggest issue for celebrities is the societal cocktails of myths composed of expectations, ownerships, and dehumanization. Let's start with the dehumanization. I think it applies especially to youth stars. We gave Justin Bieber, Britney Spears, and Lindsay Lohan millions of dollars when they were teenagers. There are well over 1,000 malls in the U.S. that don't even allow teens without adult supervision. Translation, we can't trust kids to handle themselves with $10 in a mall food court, but we're shocked when teenagers who get more money than most people ever see in their lifetimes before they get their driver's licenses, they go off the rails. We're surprised. This shows exactly that celebrities are just people. If you were a fairly well-disciplined teen who only occasionally got into a little mischief, what were the factors keeping you from going absolutely out of your mind crazy? Maybe you needed that job to pay your car insurance. You needed your parents to not ship you off to some juvenile detention center. Mrs. Murphy down the street was always watching out for who was causing trouble. But what if you didn't need a job or anybody to buy food or keep a roof over your head? What if millions of people admired you? And what if almost as many millions of people would cheer if you fucked up? That's the dehumanization of celebrities. Expectation and ownership are somewhat related, I think. Expectations may come regarding creative output, or they may come regarding interaction, which I think is implied ownership. Here are some examples. Do you think the Across the Universe Beatles may have had a different fan base than the Ticket to Ride Beatles? I'm sure there were some people who came in at Ticket to Ride and stuck around for Across the Universe, but my guess is that any contemporary fans of both those iterations came in at Jagaru Deva Om and worked their way backward to She's Got a Ticket to Ride and She Don't Care. Well, most of the people who profess to enjoy both the early and the later sounds, they weren't picking up the music at the time it came out. That's expectation for creative output. The ownership side can be a little more tricky. Think for a minute about J.D. Salinger. His most famous work was published in 1951. And just about 70 years later, Catcher in the Rye still sells 250,000 copies each year, even though you could almost certainly get it at your library or local used bookstore. You might remember that when J.D. Salinger died in 2010, people wrote tributes as to how much he and his work would be missed. But at that point, he hadn't published anything new in 45 years, hadn't even given a public interview in 30 years. If you were on Twitter in 2010 to honor him, chances are that the last time anybody actually heard from him, you could barely put together a sentence, you were so young. The public felt such ownership over Salinger that the public entirely ignored his decades of staying out of the public eye. Another aspect of expectation and ownership is the notion that celebrities are only celebrities because the public lets them be and can dictate all the interaction. But a lot of being famous is about putting in hard work. Just because someone else does an entirely different kind of work than you do doesn't mean they're not working their ass off at it. So if someone famous just wants to eat dinner with their family, no, they don't owe you a selfie. And if someone doesn't want to shake your hand in the restroom, get over it. That's a person. It's not someone you own. As the case of Salinger shows, it's nearly impossible to just stop being a celebrity. According to Kurt Cobain's suicide note, and yes, I am aware of the theories that it wasn't really a suicide, celebrity was really not fun. From his note. For example, when we're backstage and the lights go out and the manic roar of the crowd begins, it doesn't affect me the way it did for Freddie Mercury, who seemed to relish in their love and adoration from the crowd, which is something I totally admire and envy. The fact is, I can't fool you, any one of you. It simply isn't fair to you or me. The worst crime I can think of would be to rip people off by faking it and pretending as if I'm having 100% fun. Treat people well. And treat celebrities like they're people, because they are, except Lassie and Benji, who were, of course, dogs. Have a great day. Have a great week. Come by for show notes at betterhumanhood.com/EP35. That's betterhumanhood.com/EP for episode 35. Visit kettleandfire.com. Fill up your box. And use code betterhumanhood. Check out for 10% off. Be who you will to be. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. Get show notes and more at betterhumanhood.com. Leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And have yourself a wonderful day.